was homeschooled from the time I was 5 years old until I graduated high school. I didn't technically graduate high school, but instead got my GED in 2016, which is pretty much the same thing. My education was not a very conventional one, even for a homeschooler. I did not do much bookwork, but more of a hands-on and go-with-the-flow type of learning. Many of my memories growing up consist of going to museums and my mom giving my siblings and I long lectures on how we could do anything we put our minds to, as long as we could read and write. So far, that belief of hers hasn't been proven wrong. 3 of her 7 children are in college and 1 has graduated from cosmetology school. My 3 youngest siblings had to be enrolled in public school after Mama died of cancer in 2013, but they did and are doing very well for themselves. My mom was very diligent in the early days of homeschooling. She used to get my siblings and I up in the mornings, and we would sit in our desks and have lessons for about 6 hours a day. I remember that my desk was yellow with purple kittens all over it, and that I always would hang on the desk upside down or sprawled across it, or coloring in my notebook while Mama was teaching me my lessons. Mama would get upset that I was not listening and scolded me quite often for never paying any attention. Despite my rambunctious behavior in our classroom, I was always able to repeat the lessons back to her when asked, and I learned to read faster than any of my siblings. To say I have always loved to read for as long as I can remember would be a lie, and an even bigger one to say I have always loved to write. I did not develop a love for reading until I was a young teenager and had zero confidence in my writing skills until I was an adult. I was rather indifferent to reading when I was a kid, even though most of my family were avid readers themselves. Although I had been quite reluctant to pick up a book as a kid, I always enjoyed stories and loved for my mom or dad to read to me, especially my dad since he would always change the end of the story. Perhaps because I have always had an active imagination, I believed I did not need a book to entertain myself. When I finally did decide to commit myself to reading, I fell in love with it, and the rest is history. Majoring in English was something I began to consider not long after I began to read more avidly, but was not something I thought too seriously about until I was around 15. Though I knew I wanted to be an English major early on, I told myself it was not very practical, especially since every time I would mention how I was considering English as a major, people would always ask if I wanted to be a school teacher, which at the time I did not, or they would take it upon themselves to inform me that English was a useless degree that would leave me with nothing but college loans and no job to pay them off. So I put the thought of pursuing English out of my mind and instead began to consider taking a more traditional and safer route, such as nursing or accounting, amongst many others. I quickly realized, though, that being a nurse was not something I was cut out for, and I despised math, so being an accountant was not even an option. After my mom died, I put off going to college for a few years and ended up going at 22 instead of the more traditional 18. Because I waited a few years to start school, I did not enter college during a time in my life when I was unsure about what I wanted to major in. That would have been a major waste of time and money indeed. Just as I knew I would back when I was 15, I have loved being an English major, and I am glad I decided to pursue it as a career. And so far, being an independent student has helped me out tremendously with financial aid, and I should be able to graduate with little debt. In the end, when all is said and done, I know I will do just fine while pursuing something I am truly passionate about. I will never regret choosing to study English, and I cannot wait to see where it will lead me in the future.